Hi, it's James from Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today we're going to take a look at Beyond the Rift, a Perdition's Mouth game published by Dragon Dawn Games. This is a 1 to 4 player game that takes about 60 minutes to play. You can play this in a single session or in a campaign mode where you're going to be gaining new abilities and equipments as time goes by and developing the story of your characters. So let's go ahead down to the table here, and I'm going to show you how to play the game, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to give you my final thoughts. Alright, so this is Beyond the Rift, a Perdition's Mouth game, and this game can be played as just individual campaign scenarios or through the entire campaign. Now this game here, you can gain new cards if you play through the campaign to boost your character. And there's a giant stack of these cards you can gain. You can also gain cool new items as you go through the game here. And there's a lot of, like this one, not like the picture of this one. There's lots of cool different items that you can gain throughout the game to help you along. And really the campaign is the meat of this game. This is where this game shines. And you can play this game solo also. And I'm going to show you real quick a solo, like a couple of turns of a solo game here. But there's also these different monsters. You won't see all these monsters in the first scenario we're going to play right here. But there's tons of different monsters you can run into throughout the game. Some tougher than others, some really tough. But yeah, there's a lot of monster cards here. So there's a lot of content in the campaign mode of this game. Now, you also have different characters that you can play. In each character, you'll match up the colors here. They'll have a normal side and an advanced side that you can unlock throughout the game. But there's a bunch of characters you can pick from. And each of the characters comes with a matching card right here. And they're all slightly different. So you can say right here, you pay 3 action points to draw a card, but on this one, you can pay 1 action point to discard up to 2 cards, then draw the same number of cards. You can discard 1 card here to gain 2 action points. So they have different abilities, main abilities over here, and they have different costs for doing these different actions that they have available in the game. And like I said, you'll match those up with the type, and here we're going to be using this character, and this is going to be its starting action points, 5, and these are the main ability that the character gets. Its range for that ability, so once per hero phase you may discard a card. It may be a wound or fatigue. That's a very important thing, because if you ever end up with a hand of just wounds or fatigue, you immediately lose the game. If any hero loses a game that way, everyone loses the game, because this is a cooperative game. So anyway, you can discard that card and you can initiate a battle with a range of 2 and a fight of 3, and it doesn't count as aiding. So basically what that means is you have 2 different areas. Well, you have several different areas, but you have the quest area and the player's area here. So each player is going to have a little area there. So and you have other players, they'll have their area and they'll have a range. But this is range 1 and this is range 2. So this is basically saying I can reach all the way here and I could pull this one in and fight it. And we'll go over that in a minute, because there's a bunch of stuff with your phases that are round structure they can go through. But basically you're going to pick a scenario. So in this case, they recommend out the side entrance. And you have a little bit of a story here. And this is like the introductory sequence or scenario that they want you to play to learn the game here. And you can play this over and over again until you get a really good hang of the game and then continue on for the campaign. But on this chart here, which looks like a lot of stuff, this is just basically you could pick your difficulty. So if I'm playing with 1 player, I can pick an easy difficulty. This would be medium, this would be hard. And then I would get in the enemy deck, I would get 1 acolyte, 1 bone worm, 2 guards, and I think this is called Ratikas. That would make up my enemy deck. Then I'd set up my terrain deck of 2 doors, 1 empty room, 2 rubble, 1 acolyte, and 1 guard. And then I would spawn 1 terrain in the quest area. So my quest area is going to start with 1 acolyte and 1 guard, and then I'll spawn a terrain that I set up. So I set up the terrain deck earlier here, and this would make up my starting quest area. It also gives what the terrain effects do. So you had a rubble in here. The rubble here is actually going to make it harder for me to pull these enemies in. It's going to take 3 additional action points. So this one here is going to take 6 action points to pull into me to fight. The door is basically going to stop any more monsters from coming in, and I have to open the door before more monsters come down. And that's bad because what I want to do is run these decks out. If I run these decks out here, I win. If the threat level gets to 8, I lose the game. So how do you know these things like the threat level and such? Well, in here it's going to show you your win-lose conditions, and here it's going to say I'm going to lose if my threat level gets to 8. So that's 1 player. This is going to be 7 for 2 players. This is going to be 6 for 3 players and 6 for 4 players. And then we're going to have these ME phase things that can occur. I'll show you those in a minute. And we have a quest phase. So the game's going to go over a couple different phases here. So you're going to start with your round structure. You're going to start with the hero phase, then the enemy phase, then the quest phase, then the draw phase, and then the end phase. Before the game starts, you're going to draw up to the hand side that you're allowed for the player number. So in this case, I'm playing with 1 player, so I get a hand limit of 7 cards. Now this is going to be a hard hand limit, and the draw phase, I will always draw my 7 cards that I'll have to discard down. You always want to try to use all these cards, although there's a little bit of a bonus with action points if you have a little overage for this. But anyway, these are the cards I have. I'm going to go straight into the hero phase. Now, these little symbols basically show you what the card's about, but we're going to be looking at doing different things with action point costs. So this is the action point cost here. This is going to be like the boosting or aiding value, I forget what it's called, here. So if I fight, I have to initiate with the right, or left, sorry, and then I can boost with the right. And if I don't have a right or a left, I can't do one or the other. But we'll show you that in a minute. But know that that's available. You could also help other people, and you always use the value on the left if you're going to be doing that. So if I get into a fight and someone wants to help me out, they can use cards from their hand to help me out. Now, all sorts of different things I can do. One of the primary things that I need to do is get rid of these enemies. They're going to have a lot of stats in here, like this guard is pretty nasty. It's going to take 3 action points plus 3 action points, 6 action points to pull this guard down to me. And it has a range of 2, so if I don't pull it down, it can still hit me. It has a strength of 2, defense of 2, and it has 2 health. Where the Acolyte here, in this mode, has a really horrible ability here. So this is going to be 2 action points to pull down, 1 range, 1 fight, 1 defense, 1 heart. So unless it moves into my area, it can't do anything. But in this scenario, the Acolyte rate can raise an alarm. If the Acolyte is being activated in the quest area, remove it and increase the threat by 1. If the threat is 8, going to be 8 in this case, I lose the game. So this is also going to increase the threat. However, the threat's going, in this scenario, the threat's going to go up 1 at the end of every round, regardless in that end phase. So, for example here, you could also do things like, I can say, well, I need to start gaining some action points so I can do stuff because I only have 5. So I could lose 2 action points to gain 5 action points with this card. Let's see what else I got. I might need a lot here. But I still need to be able to fight. So let's see. This one is bonus, choose one of the following. Copy this fight targeting another target within range. No bonus effect with copy. Copy fight targeting the same target with -2. Okay. So I have an extra thing, but basically what I could do is I could use my hero's ability here. I can discard a card but that's a range of 2, so I can initiate with that. But do I have enough ranged weapons? Do not. So that's going to cost me 6. Well, I'm going to pull the Acolyte over. That'll cost me 5. So I'll go down to 3. I'll pull the Acolyte up. I can now discard a card. So if I do that, I will gain 3 against him, and he has 1 defense. But that might not be enough. This one says I can play after determining the enemy's defense. So we're going to hold on to this. So right now I have 3 versus 1. We're going to flip one of these cards over. And now we have +2. So we have 3 different 3 versus 3. So I need to play this, which will put me down to 2. And now I have beaten the Acolyte because I have 5 versus 3. Well, the Acolyte here, we're going to give him a wound card. And we're going to take a look at the wound card. Not all and the wound card's going to slide over here. So we're going to see if this is going to be enough to kill the Acolyte or not. So the Acolyte has 1 health, and this does kill it. If it didn't, this would lower its... now, none of these can be negative, and this can't be lower than 1. But this would lower its defense to 0. It would lower its strength to 0, or fighting to 0, and it would lower its action point cost down to 1, so it'd be easier to pull in. But this does kill him. So this gets removed, and the wound card goes into this guard pile. So I've effectively killed the Acolyte. Now the question is, can I kill this guard? Well, let's go ahead and go down 2, go up to 5. So I have 5 here, which isn't enough to pull him down. But if I discard this one, I can go up to 7. Still not good enough. We're not going to discard that one. Instead, let's go ahead. These cost 0 action points to defend, so we're going to hold on to that. Let's go ahead and spend 2 action points to draw a card. Ooh. This could be a really nice card if I could actually hit that character, which I can't. So let's go ahead and say we're going to go into the quest phase. Well, or sorry, we had to hero phase, we go to the enemy phase. So what do we do in the enemy phase? Well, we're going to draw one of these cards here. Ooh, it's a +5. And then we're going to look at the chart here. When we look at the chart, we're going to see, okay, we have a guard. So what does the guard do? Well, the guard here is going to engage. This is going to be disengage. This is engage. And it's going to give us some fatigue. So the fatigue is going to go on top of my deck. Now, other symbols on here are going to be the fight symbol, where it'll fight us. And like I said, this is engage, this is disengage. So if it goes disengage, it's going to change state over here. But basically, that's how the enemy phase is going to work. And I'm going to end up drawing a fatigue. So enemy phase occurs. Then we go into the quest phase. And basically, we're going to look at this. So in the quest phase, our threat level is 0. So our threat level to 0 says, and there is no door on the table. So there's no door on the table. So then we're going to discard all terrain and spawn 1 enemy and 1 terrain in the quest area. So 1 terrain and 1 enemy because there was no door. We're going to go into the draw phase. And when we go into the draw phase, we're going to get action points here. Then we're going to see how many cards we have in our hand. We have 4. So we're going to get 4 more. So that gives you up to 9. And then we're going to draw 7 cards. So we're going to go through this deck pretty quick. And this is on purpose. So you think, wow, that's great. I'm going to have tons of cards to pick from. Well, what's going to end up happening is you're going to end up pulling any wounds that you get, which we'll go over combat here in a little bit, any wounds that I get, and they'll go into my hand. And I can't discard these normally. I could discard them if I use them for their abilities here. So this is -1 strength, or I could lose some action points to get rid of it. But I now have to discard down to 7 cards. So I'm going to have to lose 4 cards. Now, I need to really get these people. So this one's a really great one to keep. So I'm going to keep that one. We'll go ahead and get rid of this one for simplicity's sake. Oh, I like that one too. Oh, so many good cards. We'll get rid of this one. Let's see. so many good cards. We're going to go defenseless this time. One more card. Zero, that one's zero. Oh, we'll get rid of this. Okay, now that we're set up, now we go to the end phase. So the end phase in this scenario, which can be different in different scenarios, in this scenario, we're just going to go up one threat. So now we're going to start over. So we'll go to this next round, and then we'll go back up to the table here, but I just want to show you this. So now I'm ready to go. So now we're going to go straight into the hero phase. I have some guards in front of me. I could try to kill this guy first, which would probably be the best. So I'm going to go ahead, and he has defense of 2. I'm going to go ahead and spend 2 action points to try to kill him with my 5. Keep in mind, I have some that can be played after determining the enemy's defense, which is good. So 2 plus 2 is 4. I do defeat him. So because I do that, I get to draw a wound card. Again, we're going to slide this wound card underneath there. So now this thing's 0 to pull back down to me. So it has 0 action point cost. Strength of 0, defense of 0, and health of 1. Well, I still have lots of cards in my hand, and I still have some pretty good fight in my hand. I might want to hold on to that one. I'm going to go ahead and pay an action point here and fight him again. So he has it 0, so we'll flip a card. It's 2. 3 is greater than 2. I get him again. I don't have to use that extra card. We're going to go ahead and flip another one of these. Now this one's a -2. This would have killed him outright earlier, but either way, this guy's really killed. So these go dead. The discard pile, that one's dead. I still have this rubble here, but I can use this card for 2 action points, and this card here will pull. Target hero engages or disengages 1 enemy, so I could pull him in, and I don't have to pay the extra action cost. I believe that's how that works. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but that's how I've been playing that. So now he has 2 defense. I'll play this card. So I'll play 1 action point. So 5 versus 2 defense. We flip a card, +1. I have been able to defeat that one. And we'll put this underneath there. So now it's -1 health. And what else can I do? Well, we could try again. So it's -1 health, 0 defense, 0 fighting. So let's go ahead, and we're going to do my hero's ability here. So we'll discard a card. This will give me 3 fighting. We'll go ahead, because we could play both of any of these afterwards. Before, yeah, so we'll go ahead and do that. It's a +3, so it's 3 versus 3. I do need to play this to get it 6. So then I get another wound card here, and this wound card will finish off this guard. Now, we continue on with the rest of the turn here, where we go into the quest phase. And now that the quest phase, we have 1 threat here. We discard all terrain cards, since it's not a door, so we discard the terrain card. And we spawn 2 enemy and 1 terrain in the quest area. So I'm going to get 2 enemies in here. We've got a really powerful one. And we get a door into there. Now notice I did skip the enemy phase, but that's because there is no enemies. But we would have done the enemy phase, then the quest phase. Then we go into the draw phase. So the draw phase here. I have 1 card left in my hand. So we're going to go to 5 action points and then +1, so I'll be at 6. And then I'll draw 7 cards, and I'll have to discard 1. All right, so then I'll have to discard 1 card. We'll just random. This one's really cool. So we'll just discard this one. All right. So just so you know, this card right here, this one's going to give me tons of, could give me tons of action points. I draw 2 of these cards, add it up, subtract 1. That's how many action points I get. All right. So we go into the end phase and we go up 1 threat. Now, that's 2 rounds of the game. This game's pretty easy to get into and pretty fluid to play. Didn't go over much of the rules in the game, but I just wanted to show you a general idea of like the flow. So one thing I did want to show you, which never did occur, is the enemy phase where they fight. So let's say I get to this point here and I didn't defeat any of these monsters, and we flip this card, which is going to be a 1. Now, there is a card in here that makes you reshuffle, so just keep that in mind. But I have a 1 here, so we have an Acolyte. Acolyte's going to disengage or raise the alarm, which is going to raise the alarm because there, but we'll skip it. So right now we have that Rakata or whatever it is. That one's going to engage, so it's going to come down and it's going to fight me. So what happens when you fight? Well, you're going to use this fighting ability here, and then I'm going to pick my defense. So I look through here, and let's say I play this one for 5 defense. Versus 1, that's not bad. However, this guy's also going to be able to flip a card. So let's say I did, so that's 3 versus 5, I'm fine. But let's say I didn't have that card. Let's say actually I didn't have any cards, so this one just would have done 3 damage to me. Well, instead of I'm drawing 1 wound card, I actually draw 3 wound cards. So they draw the difference. So if I had 1 defense, I would have drawn 2 wound cards, and so on and so forth. And these would actually go straight into my hand, and they clog them up. So with this, is I can't normally discard it. I'll still draw 7 cards on my turn, and then I'll have to discard down without discarding these. And if I ever end up with a hand of all wounds and fatigue, I will lose the game. Everyone will lose the game in a multiplayer game if one person does that. So I just wanted to show that part. But yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff with this. Let's go ahead back up the table here, and I'll give you my final thoughts on it. Okay, so that was Beyond the Rift, and I just briefly went over just a little bit of the flow of the game itself. The iconography is really easy to pick up. The rule book there probably needs to be ordered a little bit better, but other than that, really good. You can get it after you go through your first scenario there, which I showed you 2 rounds of. But after that, you're going to be really getting into the game there. You're going to go through the campaign. You're going to be building up your deck. You're going to be doing all sorts of cool things. You can even level up your character. Really cool stuff in there. And the campaign is where the meat of the game is. That's where you're going to get those cool stories. That's where you're going to develop your character. That's where all the cool stuff happens. Now, component quality in this game is really, really good. Like the art, it's not my favorite style in the world, but I mean, the art is very good in this game, so that's also awesome. It's going to follow like a dungeon crawling experience, so if you like dungeon crawling games, and this is one that plays in a reasonable amount of time and plays really well solo, this might be up your alley. Also, really, if you could ratchet up the difficulty of these, so you could actually play through the campaign and be like, okay, I finished it, that was fun. Now I want more of a challenge. You can go through in hard and try it then, where your every decision is super critical. So I really appreciate that in this game. There's a lot of content in this game, a lot of the campaign to go through. That book is pretty darn thick for the amount of campaigns that you can go through, so you can get a lot of replayability with this. So if you like dungeon crawls, this is going to be a game that's going to be up your alley. If you want to get into dungeon crawl games, this would be a great one to start with. This one will teach you the ropes, has really cool mechanics in it. Really love the card system. I didn't mention, I showed you that all the characters have unique abilities and stuff, but they all have unique decks. So that deck that you saw for that character was that character's deck, and each one is completely unique and tailored to that character. So I really like that a lot. So you could play through solo. Now at some points you have to use different characters, but you could then go through and play with different characters and get a different experience with the game. So I really like that also. So solo games too, if you like solo dungeon crawls, this is going to be up your alley also. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. Thank you for watching.